Okay, so I will do the intro and we can get right into it. Looks like
This
you've
might be the
added.
fastest we've ever started an episode.
Well, you see, we have to be better behaved when we have a guest and not just talk about whatever for 6 hours like we usually do.
Sure, whatever you say.
Welcome to the internet, live from a hot air balloon traversing the world in 80 days. This is the Red Line Podcast. I'm your host, quote, likes calling things that aren't light rail, Dunstan. And these are my co-hosts.
Kyle, sliding through the moonlight, Holland. And we also have a guest today.
Yes, I am Caleb, aka Classy Whale. Although technically, I'm not Classy Whale. My channel is Classy Whale, but people call me Classy Whale, so I just kind of use that at this point.
You just roll with it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
When your channel isn't 3 people, it's a lot harder.
Yeah, or 3 raccoons in a trench coat.
Haha. a classic.
Is that where the number came from? Is that true?
I can neither confirm nor deny.
It's good to have an expert here as we tackle our first truly overseas topic. Just what is the Addis Ababa light rail and why is it in trouble? All this after the news.
TM.
See, now I feel weird doing the news
Yeah.
sound effect too.
You don't have to be-
Isn't that how it goes?
Close
Yeah,
enough.
thanks.
I mean,
We'll use that.
it's good to change it up every now and then, right?
Sometimes I forget, so
You do, yeah. Okay. Canadian National Railway's track between northern New York State and Montreal has been a problem for a while, but things came to a head last summer when CN slowed trains running over nearly 25 miles of track to a pathetic 10 miles an hour.
Wait, so
The
if you do the
Amtrak
math,
at
that's...
around-
Hold on. That's 2 hours. 2.5 hours to cover 25 miles.
That is
what is
correct.
this, a bus?
I've been on many buses faster than that.
Yeah, it's
I've
faster than the
walked
sea.
faster than that.
That's true.
That's actually a lie. I can't walk 10 miles an hour. But I've biked faster than that.
Sophie's probably walked faster than that. The sheer
feel like I
audacity
could-
in that one.
I am the fastest walker west of the Mississippi, but
Which of the raccoons does the walking?
they really trade off as they get tired, just to keep up the pace.
Just as long as they're all unionized, you know?
Alright, next time it's 3 raccoons and a hamster wheel, okay?
Very good. The Amtrak Adirondack, which uses the route to travel between New York City and Montreal, has been heavily affected, but that may be about to change. Amtrak has finally reached a deal with CN to pay for rehabilitation work on the line, which our national railroad hopes will allow for a more reliable Adirondack service. I will say, I do think it's funny that an American government-owned, well, sort of government-owned, railroad is paying for infrastructure upgrades in a different country.
Now we just need
This is
Via
kinda
Rail
funny.
to, rebuild the tunnel under Baltimore, and then we'll call it even.
Alright, good deal.
Good deal.
I mean, it is kind of weird enough already how Amtrak pays for infrastructure upgrades in our country.
Well, but it's like going to something that is at least allegedly owned by an American, right? Like,
Allegedly, yes.
But who is paying for infrastructure upgrades in Ethiopia? Transition.
good
Ooh.
segue. Good segue.
The segue if it didn't flop.
So tell me, who is paying for transit infrastructure in Ethiopia?
Well, I'm glad you asked that very organic question. I'm here today on the Redline Podcast to talk about the Addis Ababa Light Rail. So, I have a bunch of facts. Can I start reading my facts? Is this how the show works? Do you
Yeah,
guys
we
start
like
reading facts?
facts. Yeah,
Read
pretty much.
read your facts. We love facts. I
Cool.
see the
Usually
first.
one, maybe 2 of us knows the facts, and we kind of just go from there. So you can be the fact knower today.
I'll be the fact
tell
knower.
me. I'm trying to be organic here, so this will be a good segue. Where is Addis Ababa? I am familiar with that, but for the sake of the audience, I am not.
So, Addis Ababa is located in Ethiopia. Ethiopia is the second most populous country in Africa. It's located in the Horn of Africa. If you know where Somalia is, do you guys think you could find Somalia on a map?
I could, but I
Probably
was
not.
geography B champion in the 7th grade, not to flex. So
Oh, flex all you want. That is a worthy flex. Anyways, so if you think where Somalia is, like the sticky, outy, pokey bit of East Africa, then you just go a little bit west, inland, then you have Ethiopia. Ethiopia has no coastline. It used to have coastline, and that coastline became Eritrea and Djibouti. They sold one of their ports to France, and the other two became their own country. So now all of Ethiopia's trade, or almost all of Ethiopia's trade, has to pass through Djibouti. The country was never colonized. People in Ethiopia are very, very proud of this fact. They were occupied a couple times by the Italians, but that was a military endeavor and never a successful colonization. Also, coffee originated in Ethiopia. Now, you guys are from Utah, so do people there drink coffee? I know Mormons don't drink coffee.
We're from downtown Utah.
Yeah, we're from
where we
we're
have
from
like a
heathen
massive
part.
overdose of coffee to overcompensate for the lack of coffee in the rest of the state.
Gotcha.
Yeah, coffee
So, yeah,
is like
if you-
a shibboleth almost, right? Like if you're a member of the Codge Colds, then you don't drink coffee and you're very like, specific about it. If you're not, then you like, sort of excessively drink coffee to prove to everyone that you're not LDS.
I see. Because like in Ethiopia, the Orthodox don't eat pork and the Muslims don't eat pork. And so the Protestants, the Pentecostals and stuff like that, they don't have any like prohibition against eating pork, but they usually just don't anyway because nobody else does. It's not like a hard and fast rule. It's just like there isn't that much pork available, so it's not a general common part of the diet. So I was wondering if the same thing happened with coffee and Mormonism in Salt Lake City, but I guess not.
Yeah, maybe in Provo. There's like 2 coffee
Maybe.
shops in Provo.
Really? That is so funny. Any case, so coffee came from Ethiopia and somehow made it to Utah. Coffee is one of the main agricultural products of Ethiopia, another being teff, which is a like special grain they use to make flatbread. 79% of the population is rural, meaning only the remaining 21% live in urban areas. The largest by far is Addis Ababa, which is located pretty much in the dead center of the country. The metro area, including both the Addis Ababa capital district and the surrounding Oromia region within a short stone's throw to Addis Ababa. Population adds up to about 5.7 million. That's a little more than Phoenix and a little less than like the Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach kind of metroplex. It is a bit denser than a Phoenix-type city, but it's not super dense. We'll get to that.
I mean, to be fair, being denser than Phoenix is not a super great achievement, given that I think that the metro area has like 1,200 per square mile population density.
1,200. Okay, let's see what Addis Ababa's is. Let me pull up Wikipedia real quick. Okay, so it's 5,720 per square kilometer. I don't know what that is per square mile, but probably more than Phoenix.
13,000. Yeah,
Ooh.
certainly.
So it's 13,000
Wow,
per
okay,
square mile?
And I was wrong about Phoenix. I had the kilometers in my head. So Phoenix is 3,100 per square mile, so Addis Ababa is like, what was it, 13,000?
Yeah, slam dunk, totally different weight class.
Oh, so like 4 times. Okay.
Yeah. And of course the Wikipedia page has the light rail as a cover photo, because we do that for every city apparently.
Ethiopia, I mean, just in general, if you see pictures of Addis Ababa, the light rail looks good. It's really, really photogenic. Operationally, not sure it always meets that reputation, but we'll get to that. Any case, it's a bit like the Pacific Surfliner, like Amtrak loves to show it off and the whole thing's falling into the ocean.
True. Except this country has no coastline, so it's falling somewhere else.
Yeah, that is very true. Anyways, Addis Ababa is incredibly high elevation. It's located in a highland. It's at about 7,700 feet, which is 2,500 feet higher than Denver, Colorado. It's at the base of this mountain called Mountain Toto. Interestingly, it was only founded fairly recently. It was founded in 1886 and incorporated in 1889. One of the people involved in the city's formation was Menelik II, who was one of the country's most important recent emperors. He was the hero of the Battle of Adwa in 1896 when Ethiopia successfully pushed back the Italians the first time. The Italians came back a couple decades later, but we'll get to that. Addis Ababa has several main landmarks, including the African Union headquarters. The African Union is it's not quite like the European Union. It's still kind of an association sort of union. I don't really know how to describe it Google it. There's also...
More of an association or a trade agreement, less of a central government.
It's like NAFTA, sort of, except less.
I'm married to an
Gotcha.
Ethiopian, and you guys know more about her country than I do. This is sad.
That's interesting. I'd always thought that that the African Union would be headquartered in like Cape Town or Cairo or
Nairobi.
something, but I guess, yeah, Nairobi. But that is sort of a good location, given that, I don't know, Ethiopia is pretty stable as far as things go. I know there was a small, well, not small, a civil war recently, but
There's been various regional conflicts, but somehow they've never affected the capital. The capital just keeps being the capital.
I wonder if the geography has much to do with that.
Interesting question. I've never really thought about that. Any case, the downtown, the Amharic word for downtown really translates more to center city, so I'm going to use my Philadelphian vocabulary here. Center city is home to the central business district, including several large banks, the Ethiopian government facilities, the former imperial palace, which is now a tourist attraction, the headquarters of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, which is the largest religion in the country, and Mercato, which is the largest open-air market in the African continent. It employs approximately 13,000 people across several square miles of businesses. And I checked, that's about the same number of people as, what's it called, Zions Bank Corporated employs in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, that's insane.
nice. And that's a big employer here. Because we're according to Wikipedia, loves to call us the industrial banking capital of the West.
Except for every other city in the West that has, like, a big bank tower downtown.
Well,
Both in banks,
pshaw.
alright. Personally, I'd rather have a multiple square mile open air market than a bank tower, but to each their own.
Salt Lake City Mercato, let's do it.
Yeah.
I mean, our blocks are so big, you could probably fit the whole thing on one of them.
Oh, sure.
Any case, Addis Ababa is interesting in terms of city design. It is decently dense, but it's not quite as dense as some older African cities. Like, if you go to Africa, it's the old world. And so you have these ancient cities that are like thousands of years old. Like, I've been to Morocco. It's the only other place in Africa I've been besides Addis Ababa. And you have these cities that are, like, incredibly ancient, 1,000 years old. You can't drive a car in them at all. There's no grid. There's no, like, don't even try to take a wheelchair in there. Very dense, very walkable. Addis Ababa is not quite like that. It has these big wide streets. It kind of has a grid pattern. The grid kind of, it's stronger in some places and a little bit more, not that in other places. But it definitely doesn't feel like very, very constrained the way you'd feel like driving around Manhattan, say. But the car ownership isn't quite as prevalent as in the US. You have about one car for every 6.25 people, as opposed to one car for every 1.17 people in the US. And there is a strong pedestrian culture. You have lots of people walking around. So imagine going to, like, Houston and seeing, like, New York level pedestrianism on Houstonian infrastructure. That's kind of what it feels like to drive around some of Addis Ababa's main roads. Like, you'll have, I don't know if this is super typical, but I do recall going around a roundabout with like 2 or 3 lanes of traffic, and there's just 4 or 5 guys having a picnic in the middle of the roundabout. Definitely not the kind of thing you'd see here.
So
I love that for
what
them.
you're saying is that they're Americans are cowards, basically.
I think Americans really like their air conditioning. Although Addis Ababa doesn't get that
no.
hot in the summer. It's really, really nice. It just rains every afternoon.
Probably the elevation, yeah.
Yeah, how much of the year does it get snow cover for at that elevation?
It doesn't actually get snow. My wife grew up there, and she saw snow for the first time when she went to our undergrad in Massachusetts.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
equator,
like,
I
what,
guess.
5 degrees above the equator, yeah.
Yeah, so it's an
Forget
interesting
about that one
combination of it's
sometimes.
equatorial, but it's also really high elevation. So the climate doesn't really, at least from my experience, and from what I remember my wife and her sisters telling me, the climate doesn't really have as much variation as it does here on the East Coast or probably out in Utah. You don't have like super cold winters. You don't have super hot summers. I remember going, I went in August last year, and I left Pittsburgh. It was just, humid and hot and sweltering. Get there, and like it's just cool and fresh, and everyone's wearing hoodies and long sleeves, and me, the East Coaster, in my t-shirt and shorts, being like, "Bring it, cold weather, I love it." My wife's sister kept asking me if I was cold, and I'm like, "No, I'm actually fine. This is better."
I'm free.
So it's kind of like San Francisco then in climate.
Yeah, it is kind of like San Francisco.
But for completely different reasons.
Yeah.
Moving back from that tangent, a lot of people in Addis Ababa don't have cars. And even those who do don't always use them, so you have several different modes of transit. For very short journeys, you have the Bajaj. Have you guys ever heard of a tuk-tuk?
No.
I have not.
So basically, it's like a little motorcycle, but there's 2 wheels on the back, and there's a little enclosed passenger cabin that can hold like 3 people, and any more than that, it's going to tip over. It's known as various things around the world, but in Ethiopia, it's commonly called a Bajaj. Someone in my comments said that that's because it's like a brand of tuk-tuk called Bajaj that just kind of became the name for it, like Kleenex instead of tissues in Ethiopia. I've ridden in one. They're really,
so kind
really
of
fun.
like if a pedicab met a moped sort of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, like a rickshaw.
Exactly. I think they were like banned for a little while because they were unsafe, and now they're like rolling them back out again, but with strict regulations on how many people they can carry. There's also, of course, traditional taxis, and then there's Ride, which is their version of Uber. And then you have the taxi vans, which are like these very iconic white and blue passenger vans that run kind of a fixed route, but they're privatized, and they're not entirely on a schedule, I don't believe. They can get very crowded, but they are very, very popular as a means of sort of group transportation. And
so kind of the classic like informal public transportation that you see in a lot of places, really.
Like New York.
Yeah, like New York.
Yeah, it's sort of the Ethiopian variant of that, and those, like, if you go souvenir shopping, like me and my wife and her sisters did, they literally have just like, iconography of the city, including those blue taxi vans. So they're very, very recognizable, very iconic. And then, of course, you have the Anbesa bus, which is the more traditional bus network. Anbesa in Amharic means lion. These buses are just an iconic red and orange, and or maybe like red and yellow or something like that. And they crisscross the city on more of a fixed route system. Most of them are single deck. They do have a couple of double-decker buses now. They used to have articulated buses, and I don't think they currently have them anymore, because I would see a couple of them just like sitting abandoned in different parts of the city, and people would like turn them into shops and stuff like that. I really wanted to like go check one out, but I never got a chance to.
I love the resourcefulness of that. Yeah.
We should buy 2010 Gillig off of Facebook Marketplace and then turn it into like a taco station.
Yes. Okay, I love this idea so much. I would
It's
be
like
your
that.
first customer.
Is it like the Metro bar that they have in DC, where they took an old like 1000 series Metro train and turned it into a bar?
Oh, I
Yes.
didn't even know about that. That's
It's like
great.
the Ethiopian version
Yes.
of Metro Bar. I never even made that connection. The problem is, all of these modes of transit contribute to traffic. There was, I think, one attempt to build bus lanes, and that never finished. I'm not really clear on the details there. But, long story short, the city of Addis Ababa and the Ethiopian government were like, hey, traffic is a huge problem. We need to do something about it. And, this was like the late 2000s, early 2010s. There was some question as to whether or not the system was going to be LRT or BRT, but ultimately they decided to go with light rail. In 2011, they made an agreement with China, where the light rail was going to cost about $475 million, which, I don't know, I'm not super familiar with like the costs of different light rail systems here in the US, but that's pretty dang cheap, isn't it? For 20 miles of track?
About what is that per mile, Kyle? Do the math in
About
your
25 million, a little bit less.
Oh,
that's quite
hot
cheap.
dang. Yeah, no, like, what is it? The cheapest light rail line ever built was the San Diego Blue Line, and that was like, what, $7 million a mile? So
Yeah, that is 25 million a mile in 2011. So that is cheaper than typical, even cheaper than some of the better systems. It's not
well,
like mind-blowing though, it's just better.
Kyle, but this system is like quite extensively, and you'll have to forgive me if I'm wrong here, but quite extensively elevated and
Yes.
tunneled in some
Yes,
areas.
there is one subway station.
Yeah, in
Oh,
that
there's
case,
one
never
subway
mind.
station.
Mind-blowingly good. Yeah, we'd never get anything like that here.
Yeah. So the problem was, who's going to pay for it? They agreed that 15% of the cost would be covered upfront by the Ethiopian government. The other 85% would be covered from a loan from the Export-Import Bank of China. China would also provide...
Isn't this something that China does a lot of, like financing infrastructure development
Oh,
in other
we'll get
countries?
into that. Yeah, we have a whole section at the end set aside
Oh,
for
boy.
discussion of Belt and Road.
Yes, that is definitely a key player in this story. This is just sort of a micro-narrative of a much larger pattern of China's investment in Africa and some of the pros and cons of that. Okay, back on track. So the light rail opened in 2015, and at first it was operated by the Shenzhen Metro Group and Ethiopian Railways. So you have the national rail operator operating the city light rail, which would be a bit like Amtrak coming in and running like Front Runner and whatever light rail that's really a streetcar and streetcar that's really a light rail you guys have. I've never been to Salt Lake City, so you guys will have to show me around sometime.
I'm very sort of amused by the idea of what is it, the T in Pittsburgh? I'm very amused by the idea of Amtrak coming in and just being like, we run this now.
Oh boy, nothing would go wrong at all. This is a very funny inversion of how stuff works in America politically, though.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's no longer the case. As of the beginning of this year, they've transferred control over to the city, which is probably good. One of the criticisms levied against the system was that it wasn't super well integrated with the Anbessa bus, and now having both of those under the same general administration could lead to some better transit connectivity.
Very true.
So in terms of the route of the light rail, there's three main arterial roads that the light rail makes heavy use of. The Italians built all these during their military occupation, but, at least they left room for trains. The three that we need to think about are there's one that comes in from the west, one from the east, and one from the south. There's two from the north, but the light rail doesn't really mess around with them, and they don't really connect to the bottom three. So across the east-west portion, made up from the west Strode and the east Strode, you have the Green Line. Starting in the east at Ayat, the Green Line travels through Bole, which is kind of the bougie upscale district of Addis Ababa. That's home to the airport, Bole Airport, although the light rail does not serve the airport. It also passes my wife's grandparents' restaurant, where they serve kitfo, which is like a beef dish from the Gurage region.
Oh, that's
And then,
cool.
Yeah, my
transit-oriented
extended family.
grandparents.
Transit-oriented grandparents. That's right. I'm not sure if they've ever been on the train, but you can get to their restaurant just a couple blocks from one of the stations. I forget which one. Any case, then the Green Line continues to Mescal Square. Mescal Square is named after, I believe it's named after the holiday Mescal, which takes place on the 27th of September. And it's a major Ethiopian Orthodox holiday. There's a big bonfire, big celebration. Continuing down the West Strode, you have the National Stadium, which was built by the Italians. And I believe it was built by the Italians. Let me actually double check that fact.
While you're doing that, do we know what I'm going to look it up. I want to know what Mescal celebrates. Mescal.
Wow, 2 fact checks at the same
Commemorates
time.
the
What
discovery of
podcast
the-
is this?
Oh, it commemorates the discovery of the true cross by Saint Helena. Oh, cool.
Okay, I'm not entirely sure. I guess I didn't write it down on my notes. I think the stadium was built by the Italians, but I could be wrong on that. Let me double fact check that.
Look, the secret thing they don't tell you about this podcast is that TRLP stands for The Real Lies Podcast. Transit Internet's, number one source of disinformation since 2021. Isn't that right?
Yep, I'll put that on the website.
Except it was actually built by the Italians. I just found that out.
Hooray!
I feel like we're on Bluey. Hooray! Any case, so there's the stadium, although they're building a new stadium that's unfortunately, I don't think, going to be transit accessible further out of the city. You go by Le Gahar, which, if you guys know French, do you guys speak French?
One of us does.
A little bit. I don't know what that means, though.
So what does Le Gahar kind of sound like?
I honestly no clue. You're gonna have to tell me.
So it's basically the Amharic version of La Gare, or however you say it, for train station.
Got it.
How do you say that?
It would be like Le Gare, the big like sort of nasally French R in the end.
La Gare.
La Gare. Oui,
Yeah,
je
fuck.
voudrais faire la gare. Yeah. Okay, that's cool.
So the French actually, when they bought Djibouti from Ethiopia and colonized it, they built I think it's a meter gauge railway between Djibouti and Addis Ababa, and the light rail station is right next to the old station for the narrow gauge railway, which is now long since out of commission, other than a small section that locals still use for local transport. The station is now a coffee shop, so you can still go and check it out and see some of the old
Cool.
trains. Very cool. There's a new railway that is standard gauge, but we'll talk more about that later. Any case, so you go past that, and then you get to the central business district. Got a bunch of bank towers and stuff like that. You pass across Mexico Square, which, why do you think... I wanted to put this up to you guys. Why do you think they have a square named after Mexico in Addis Ababa?
I'm gonna
that's
guess
a great
that
question.
in the Second World War, I'm gonna guess that Mexican troops helped to liberate Ethiopia. I don't know.
That's a pretty close guess. Mexico was one of only like 5 countries to not like recognize the Italian invasion or to like condemn it or something along those lines. I did not prepare for this fact. Let me triple check that.
I mean, it would make sense though.
Okay. So the square was named in honor of Mexico's refusal to honor Italy's occupation of the country in the 1930s. There's actually a corresponding Plaza Ethiopia on the Mexico City Metro. So a little strange international transit crossover there.
International
Also,
transit solidarity.
Mexico City Metro episode when?
Oh, you see, the thing about that is Mexico City is a place we could like conceivably afford to go, and so I would want to like go and see before I made a whole episode on it.
Noted. I will warn you, they are very strict about filming. I was going to do a whole Classy Whale versus Mexico City series at some point, and I started researching it, and they actually like, they do not take kindly to gringos with cameras, from what I was able to unearth.
Well, you can't blame them for that. We are known to cause trouble, gringos with cameras.
That is very true. Any case, so once you get past Mexico Square, then the Green Line passes a couple of hospitals and ends at a station called Tor Hailoch. Side note, Amharic being the national language of Ethiopia, Amharic has multiple consonants that we don't have. Like, my wife's name is Kalkidan, but if you were to actually say her name in Amharic, it's Kalkidan. So there's like a sort of a guttural click almost. So they have various things, like train station is Babur Tabia, not Tabia, Tabia.
Oh,
Have you
very
guys
interesting.
ever like encountered that before?
Yeah, I have. I had a friend in high school who had a couple of exchange students from Ethiopia who stayed with them for a couple years, and so I do remember hearing some things like that I was like, wow, I sure wish I could pronounce that.
Somewhere there exists a chart of like all sounds humans can make, and it's kind of alarming how little coverage many languages.
true.
Now I
have
want to
of
just
that
like try to
spectrum.
make sounds that aren't on that chart yet.
just inventing new
Knoosh.
sounds. Knooshk.
Anyways, the blue line starts in the south at Kaliti and then runs up the southern Strode through some industrial and residential areas. Most of the green line is elevated, but the blue line, when it starts, is at grade. It's like fenced, it runs kind of in the median of the Strode, and there's like designated crossing points. Meets the green line. Yeah, it's like
bougie, a whole fence.
When I went back through my
America
footage of
could
that,
never.
I was like, why doesn't Phoenix have this? Why doesn't Houston have this? But Addis Ababa has this.
Why doesn't everywhere have it? Like, you're not allowed to cross it. Why isn't there a fence?
Yeah.
Freedom.
In any case, it meets the Green Line at Mescal Square, and then they interline all the way from there to, I believe, Legahar General Hospital. At that point, the Blue Line peels up to the north and serves Mercato, which, like I said, major job center. There's like 4 different stations along there, and Mercato is dense. Like, you go in there, traffic is crawling, there's all these people carrying just crazy amounts of wares. It's a very overwhelming place as a first-time visitor, especially when your car is breaking down. We had that happen. That was quite interesting. But we ended up doing some shopping there, and it's very cool. Like, there's, for all of its hustle and bustle, there's a little bit of a laid-back atmosphere, at least from the very limited experience I had shopping there, where, you know, you strike up a conversation with the store owner and you kind of negotiate the price and really talk about it and make plans, and people, you know, see each other. It's very overwhelming, but it's very cool.
So is Ethiopia one of the... I know that in some places it's considered rude not to haggle when you're buying stuff. Is Ethiopia one of those cultures?
I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head what the norms are for that. I just know that in some places, bargaining is totally allowed. Like, one phrase that my wife taught me was, if I remember correctly, waga kanis, I think it is, which is like, can you make it lower, or something like that. And there's some phrase, like dembenya ahonaleo. I'm probably saying it wrong because I haven't used it in the last year, but it basically means I will be your customer if you make it lower. And I actually successfully used that to bargain for souvenirs. So there's that. But apologies, Calcadon, if you're listening to this. I'm probably saying it completely wrong. Mercato sells a lot of agricultural products. That's their biggest thing. You can buy, of course, coffee, teff, stuff like that. But you can kind of get everything here. It's a little bit like Costco, but Ethiopian Costco. Also, if I ever come visit you guys in Salt Lake City, I need to visit the world's largest Costco, because that's apparently in your city.
We do have the world's, you know, call us Addis Ababa, the way we have
You can
world's largest Costco, question mark?
come buy the entire frozen deer or whatever it is they sell.
Yeah, you can get like a whole pig in there.
Frozen deer? The Pittsburgh one just has frozen sheep. I think it's sheep.
There was a
remember
deer
which
there
animal,
at one time.
but-
I think Kyle's right. So
Bro, I love Costco. Any case, once you get past Mercato, which all of that is elevated, and for good reason, because the traffic is insane. Elevated rail is exactly what that means. And there's like 4 stops serving Mercato, so there's not like the one Mercato stop where everyone's getting on and off.
wow.
And then you go into a tunnel, and then there's the last station, Menelik II Square, named after the emperor who was kind of at the forefront of founding Addis Ababa and fighting the Italians. It's kind of a decent subway station. The escalators were broken when I was there. Actually, every escalator I saw on the system was stopped.
So it's just Seattle.
Make it that what you will. Yes, it is Seattle. The trains used on the Addis Ababa light rail are there's 41 light rail vehicles, which were originally developed for the Shenyang modern tram. Shenyang is a city in the north of China and has the largest modern light rail network in China. So they just kind of exported the design over to Addis Ababa. The trains are painted blue and green for the colors of the lines, a bit like Boston, and they have both high and low floors. With the low floors in the center and then high floors kind of on the ends. Is that what Trax has in Salt Lake City?
Yeah, it's. I think that's most, except for San Francisco and L.A. I think that's
Sacramento.
Oh yes. Well, they're getting the new ones though. But I think that's every light rail basically on the West Coast. So yeah, very similar.
Yeah. Were the trains manufactured in China, or did they source them in Ethiopia?
I believe the trains were manufactured in China and then shipped over. So
no buy Ethiopia requirement.
That was probably a bit of a process. Although Ethiopia is actually making all of their buses in-house now. They're still based on a Chinese design, but there's like a bus factory in a town called Bishoftu, and so the buses are now called Bishoftu buses.
Yes, I remember seeing that when I was looking at stuff for this episode. That's very cool to have a domestic bus industry.
Yeah.
Instead of your town's economy being Boeing, it's
Yeah.
buses.
Yeah. And resorts. Bishoftu is like a resort town. I went to this really cool bougie resort where apparently Muammar al-Gaddafi visited at one point. They have his picture hanging up there in the dining area. And it's also the first time my wife ever saw a white person. When she was a little kid, she saw a white person there. So, tangent. Anyways, rider experience. When I was going to ride the light rail, the reactions were interesting. I posted about this on like an Ethiopia subreddit, and I'm like, hey, have you guys had experience riding the Addis Ababa light rail? And people were basically commenting saying, you are going to get robbed if you ride this thing. I spoke to some people in Ethiopia, and the reactions ranged from sort of mild concern, like, go for it, just, keep track of your belongings, to why? I spoke to this guy in the airport.
What you're really saying is the more things change, the more they say the same, because this is like the same reaction I get when I tell people I'm going to, like, go ride the subway or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely felt like I had a pretty similar experience to that. I mean, their concerns were valid. This is an issue on board trains, and we'll get to why it wasn't an issue for me in a short while. But I was definitely warned, like, this is going to be packed, and there's definitely the possibility of getting something stolen. I actually bought an old digital camera to film this particular video, rather than using my main one, just in case I were to lose it and all the footage on it during this adventure. I wound up filming on my phone about halfway through when no one was making any effort to take the old digital camera I was using, and everything worked out fine. But that was something that people were pretty concerned about, and not without reason. Crime definitely happens on the Addis Ababa light rail. I mean, as it does on any transit system. But also, people were just confused as to why I was so enthusiastic about riding the Addis Ababa light rail, because there's no real concept of a foamer in Ethiopia.
No foamers. Oh, a paradise is what you're saying.
To the best... to the best of my knowledge, there is only one train enthusiast in the entire country that I am aware of.
Oh, who are they?
Like, if you go to one of the old railroad towns along the old... There's one of the major cities along the railroad is called Daradala, which is basically the Altoona of Ethiopia. It basically grew up around the railroad, and that's where they kind of stored most of the old trains when they abandoned the meter gauge railway. And there's, like, the guy that you call, and he can take you on a tour of the yard. And next time I'm there, I'm 100% calling this guy and getting a tour. I don't know how I'm going to get a hold of him, but I'm going to try. But as far as I know, he's the only train enthusiast I could locate in the entire country.
Wow.
People didn't really have any concept of, like, a train enthusiast. When I spoke to them, they're like, wait, you like trains? Why is that a thing? Which I thought was just an interesting cultural thing.
That is.
Now, when I started talking to people, they were like, oh, yeah, I actually have some nostalgic memories of riding the old meter gauge railway and stuff like that, so I kind of get it. But the first brush was just like, why do you want to ride this?
What are you doing?
Calcadon's dad was incredibly nice and took me for a ride on the Blue Line one morning. To pay for my ticket, I participated in an Ethiopian cultural tradition called Buhe, which is a holiday commemorating the transfiguration of Jesus Christ and the end of the rainy season. And it's where boys will go around and sing this song called Hoya Hoye, and pound sticks and play percussion instruments. And it's a bit like Christmas caroling, except you get paid. So I did that with Calcadon's cousins, because, I have to do the cultural immersion stuff to get to know my wife's culture. And I made out with like $4. It's pretty good.
Wow. I wish I got paid for Christmas caroling when I was a kid. That would have, like, really incentivized me to be a better singer.
Well, I mean, you can just go to people's doors and then sing, and then pull up one of those iPads with a tip window or something like that.
Please give me your money. I will try that
No,
on you.
please give us all your
You
money.
better not try that
Don't
on me.
try anything funny.
Ooh. He's a poet and he didn't even know it.
Antique references being dropped over here.
Any case, tickets on the light rail were only like 17 cents each, or about 10 birr. Birr being the currency of Ethiopia. There's no ticket machines as far as I could see. You just go to a little like booth and there's a person and you pay them through the small window. They give you a ticket. To enter the station, the elevated stations is usually just stairs. There were escalators on some, but they weren't working and not all of them had escalators. And then once you get to the station, the first thing you do is you get a pat down from one of the armed security people there, and then you show your ticket to another one of the armed security people and walk out to the platform where there's multiple other armed security people. Every single station had like, I'm going to say anywhere from like 4 to 10 armed security officers, as well as like station agents and stuff like that.
So this is like that's a lot of people in like a light rail station. I assume these stations aren't that big because they're only having, what, 2-car trains?
Yeah. Yeah, they can get pretty crowded.
Yeah, that's
I was also, of course,
weird. If stations in a lot of other places were staffed like this, it would like blow the whole budget instantly.
Yeah, I don't know who's paying them. I don't know if it's like part of the budget or whether it's like just the city police force that takes care of security. They definitely didn't seem like the, Allied Universal Security types. Like, these guys had guns.
Oh.
Like, camo and stuff like that.
Wow.
Any case, I was really concerned about whipping out a camera and taking videos of infrastructure around armed security officers. But it worked out in my favor. I was only asked not to film once on the entire trip, and I just respectfully complied. One time, I was on a platform, and the station agent yelled at me for filming. The armed guard turns around and starts yelling at the station master, like, this is a free station, he can do whatever he wants. I'm like, okay. That could have gone worse.
Thank you, armed guard.
Yeah. In terms of signage, there really wasn't much. Like, looking back through my footage, the only clear signs I could see saying what stations were faced outwards towards the road and not inwards towards the tracks. We'd pull into station after station. I'd have no idea where we were because there was no announcement on board the train, or the announcements were kind of inconsistent. I think they were supposed to be automated and not happening half the time. The drivers never made any announcements. There were supposed to be like display screens on board the trains showing where we were supposed to be, and like on one of them it worked, on 2 of them it didn't. We rode 3 trains total. And, wayfinding was not great. Also, a lot of the trains have dots now. A lot of the pictures online kind of predate the prevalence of dots on the Addis Ababa light rail, but Ethio Telecom has kind of bought the vertical surfaces of most of these vehicles at this point.
Oh, no.
Rest in peace.
Even
one day they'll invent a magic camera lens that makes dots go away.
one day they'll invent like a gun, right? And if you're a transit rider, this gun just sort of magically removes all the dots in front of you.
Maybe it's like a vacuum. Like it
Yeah.
just sucks all of the wraps into the, Anyways, not sure I'd want to whip that out around a bunch of armed guards in a foreign country.
Maybe not.
What I did discover was that the best way to film was to stand kind of in the dead center of the car and have my camera kind of away from the window. And the views are really cool because a lot of the system's elevated, so it's like riding on the Chicago L or something like that. You get kind of the skyline view and you're sailing over the traffic. It's really, really cool. Would recommend. Especially going through Mercato. So much stuff to see in just a short span of track.
Wow, you're really playing this up. I'm suddenly like, I'm going to make some typing noises. Oh, flights to Ethiopia. Here we go.
The tourism board should be cutting you a check.
How much are flights from Salt Lake City to Ethiopia?
Oh, I don't actually want to know. SLC to
Yeah.
Bada flights. Looks like, just a cool $1,500.
That is a bit steep. I will be posting, all of my footage on my YouTube channel in a couple weeks, alongside a like narrated trip report. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
Literally, I have 45 minutes of out the window footage
Looking
from
forward
the
to
Addis
that.
Ababa light rail that
So,
you
like,
guys can enjoy without spending a
Foamer
penny.
heaven. Yeah.
It's like
Nice.
I did Timosha. Do you guys watch Timosha at all?
Yes. Yes.
I was the Timosha for the Addis Ababa light rail because Timosha never got to Ethiopia.
Oh.
Any case, I was warned that these trains were going to be packed to the gills. I decided to ride on a Saturday, which helped with that kind of. Going down towards Aliti from Mexico Square, the train was not that packed, and it really, it was really taken off. Like, start accelerating and boom, be up to speed. It turns out that's because the train wasn't, I think it was because the train wasn't full going down towards Aliti, and it was going downhill. Because the Blue Line is running on the slope that Addis Ababa is built on. So when you go north, you're going up, and you're going south, you're going down. There's some debate over whether north should be up, but in this case, north is up.
So it's like faster acceleration in one direction. That's kind of fun.
Yeah. Comparing the Addis Ababa trams to the ones in Pittsburgh, ours are so much better optimized for the steep hills. By a long shot.
Oh,
These trains really kind of struggled going up the hill towards Mercato. I don't know if it's because of the gravity or because of maintenance issues, but they definitely didn't fly as much. Especially when they started being loaded up with people going towards Mercato. That really filled up the train, which really showed me that people want to make that trip. But more about that later.
Yeah. No, I mean, you first of all, you do have to be very hill optimized in Pittsburgh, given that you guys have, the steepest adhesion railway slope in the world on your light rail system. But I
Wait,
digress. Yeah, I think
I knew we had a 10% grade somewhere, but I didn't know that was the steepest.
On an adhesion railway, I believe that the Pittsburgh... Let me look up. Steepest rail grades. Excuse me, the steepest in the United States. My bad.
So, the Addis Ababa light rail, as you probably know, has a lot of problems. It is kind of a game changer, but there's still traffic. There hasn't been just an overnight shift into rail transit in Ethiopia, at least not yet, and probably not for the near future. One of the initial complaints was that the rail line blocked traffic because when it ran in the median, cars could only cross at very specific points, which would lead to backups of cars and basically cause more traffic instead of eliminating it.
I never heard that one before.
Does that happen on the track system?
I think that's just a fairly common complaint that people make in general, whether or not the issue is there. I don't know, the extent of the problem in Addis Ababa, but I do remember hearing, sort of similar complaints about Fourth South Light Rail. So, yeah.
So the system's also had some power issues. Power in general is a little bit of an issue in Addis Ababa. Sometimes homes will have blackouts for a couple hours here and there every day or two. That was kind of a rolling experience as I was there, and we always, had our batteries charged just in case we needed to charge our phones. But the Addis Ababa light rail has its own power grid. I think perhaps because of those sorts of issues, I'm not sure. But something you guys found, which I didn't know, was that people were stealing the power from the train's power grid for their own homes and businesses. Can you guys expand on that? Because you did the research.
Well, that's all I heard is that it was in a Bloomberg article, and they just said something. Let me pull up the article real quick so I can substantiate the claim a little bit. But apparently starting in about 2018, because, as you mentioned, the power grid there isn't necessarily completely reliable all the time, and some people can't really, also other people can't afford electricity. They're just like, well, get myself a nice little copper wire and dig a little tunnel under the substation, and I can sort of tap into the power and power my house. very smart, very resourceful, somewhat of a problem for the actual system.
There's also been just instances of people straight up stealing the cables used for the system.
Oh
Me when
dear.
someone
And
leaves
of
their
course,
scrap copper unattended.
I think that happened in. I want to say that happened in Lagos as well when they were trying to put up wires on their sort of metro thing that they have now.
and it just happened to a insane degree in South Africa. Somewhere around COVID, people just started stealing catenary and that sort of thing from the National Rail Network.
Oh dear.
Like if you compare South African passenger rail 10 years ago and now, it's really gone downhill. I think a lot of that has to do with crime. That and just like poor regulations and budget and stuff like that. But this isn't about that. This is about Addis Ababa. Fare evasion has been a thing. I'm going to guess that with the presence of armed guards and routine ticket checks that, in theory, has gotten better.
You're gonna
but
tell
then
me
the
that
main
putting
issue,
a whole bunch of guys in the station with like guns and camouflage is gonna deter people from fare evasion? I am shocked, I'll say.
in any case, one of the main problems these days is that only about a third of the trains are currently operational. And there's only 40 trains to begin with, 41 to be specific. 2/3 of them are down for maintenance, and that is due to various factors. There's a shortage of parts, there's a shortage of knowledge for how to fix the trains, and there's various funding arrangements and bilateral agreements that they're trying out now to kind of get the trains back up and running, but it's just a huge problem. There's a backlog of maintenance. I think one of you guys found it was like $40 million worth of maintenance that needs to happen. China's kind of pledging to step in some capacity and help in some way, and maybe even send some new trains. That may be a thing in the future, but it's going to take a lot of work, and that work needs, in my opinion, they need to create a better system for making sure the trains stay maintained.
So I do wonder if just mailing over the trains from China and hoping for the best was actually the best idea.
Well, there were like Chinese crews who were in Ethiopia. There's just some people who, analyzing the situation, might feel that the Chinese crews did not do the best job of transferring the maintenance knowledge over to Ethiopian crews, and then when the Chinese people went back to China, there was a shortage of knowledge, as well as a shortage of parts.
Yeah, it can be very difficult to do that sort of like wholesale knowledge transfer when you don't have like an existing domestic base of people who know how to do that sort of thing, right? Because you mentioned that there hasn't really been a ton of railroad activity in the country for a long time, so you're not going to have, basically anyone other than that one guy who's going to know a whole lot about trains, and so trying to, shovel literally, decades worth of development and differences in operating stuff and, maintenance manuals, trying to translate all of that from Chinese, like, that's a big job and it's very hard to do.
They should just hire the foamer.
Well, the problem is that railway was diesel. Ethiopia has never had rapid rail transit. They never had streetcars, never had trams. This is the first time that mode has ever been introduced in the country as a first-generation system.
Very interesting. Now, I think that we're going to get sort of the obvious question that every transit person is going to ask. Why is this light rail? Why is this low floor light rail especially, like, as opposed to a different mode? Like, since we're seeing such high levels of crowding even today, like, is there an argument that it should have been built as a different type of transit, maybe?
Honestly, like, I kind of wondered the same thing when I was there. And I even wondered, like, could you... I don't know if the viaduct through Center City would be able to support this, but I did wonder, could you run, like, Chicago L-style, like, little, small metro cars on this system, maybe with overhead power, and create a proper metro system? Because it would fill up. It would, I think, get the ridership that would necessitate its existence. Not sure if that will ever happen or if anyone's ever talked about that, but that was just kind of my observation.
That's something I was thinking about a lot as well, because especially given how extensively grade separated it is already, like, you would think that, I don't know, that it would be a relative, and that huge ridership, right? Like, it's 20 miles of system for 113,000 riders at the peak. Like, that's what, like 5,500 daily riders per track mile. Like, that's quite well high performing. So you would think that it would be reasonable to maybe want it to someday be a little higher capacity.
Someday. I mean, I feel like that's pretty far down the list of things that need to happen on this system.
This is true.
And with low platforms and short platforms at that, it's certainly not going to be a cheap upgrade. This would have been one of those things you should have just done it right the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seattle.
The initial ridership, like you said, was initial ridership was 113,000 daily riders in January 2016. This is comparable to the San Diego trolley, which has 3.5 times as much track. Now, as of 2023, with 2/3 of the fleet sidelined, 20-minute headways, and trams just packed to the gills, they're still pulling in about 56,000 daily riders, which is a drop of like 50%, which is really, really, really bad. But what I think a lot of media coverage of the light rail fails to take into account is that that's still a really good ridership statistic for a system in that bad condition. This is the same ridership, no, it's higher ridership than Denver, which has 3 times as many tracks and 5 times as many trains on their light rail. I'm not counting their commuter system.
Oy vey.
And there's clearly plenty more demand. They're just literally out of capacity.
Yeah, and I think that people really fail to talk about that when they talk about the Addis Ababa light rail. It is an insanely well-planned system. It takes advantage of the city's major travel corridors and its biggest employment centers. It goes where people want to go, which is just a huge step in the right direction. Looking at you, the tide. Anyways.
Americans, when transit goes where you want it to go.
Shocking.
Yeah. There's so much good, naturally existing transit-oriented development. They really tap into the pedestrian culture. Tickets are relatively affordable. It's just the trains don't work. And that is, I think, what's really holding Ethiopia back from having a really exemplary light rail system in a city that really needs it.
I agree 200%.
So I wanted to put that out there, that this system is a good system that's having problems. It's not just a bad system.
Yes, I think that you're correct, that that's an important thing to mention, because there are bad systems. This is not one of them. It's just, well, it's like Chicago, right? Like, Chicago has an excellent rapid rail system. However, since they're having staffing problems and all sorts of other problems, we're going to run 20-minute headways on the Red Line, So, yes, 100%.
Hey, that's the name of this podcast.
Wow.
Whoa. Only
Red Line
82
mentioned.
episodes in and we finally said the line.
I feel like we've said it before, Kyle. I gotta be real.
You want to check?
I know, because I don't listen to the episodes.
You literally said it in your Dallas episode.
Got him.
I know that because I listened to it while walking through the Chicago airport with a low blood sugar on the way to ride the 2 line in Seattle.
Oh,
right,
yeah,
then.
you were... How was the opening of the 2 line?
I didn't go to the opening, so I just went to like a
okay.
normal day of operations, and you can find out all about that on my YouTube channel.
Oh.
Wow. I will,
Very
actually,
exciting.
after we're done recording.
Yeah, we will.
this.
We will. Yeah.
So we are now an hour into recording, and I understand if you guys have places to be and coffee to drink, but I did have one more point to discuss if you have a few extra minutes.
Yeah.
So the broader context, like I alluded to earlier, of this light rail system is China is really trying to build a lot in Africa right now.
I think there's a Wendover
Whether
Productions
it's
video
sort of-
about it more broadly, about how
Yes.
Africa is
Yes,
supposed to be
there
China's
is.
China.
Yeah, whether this is a good thing for Africa or not is a hotly debated topic. Some people are just very, very grateful that China's coming in and investing in new technologies and infrastructure and kind of trying to upgrade transportation in the continent. Indeed, a lot of Africa's new railways, both rapid transit and intercity, are being built by the Chinese. One notable example is Ethiopia's other train service, which is an electrified standard gauge railway from Addis Ababa's Lebu station, Lebu being just right to the south of the city, because they decided not to build into center city this time around. And that goes from there to Diridawa and Djibouti. Takes 2 days because the trains go like 25 miles an hour. They were built for like 70-mile-an-hour operation, and then there was just trouble with locals and livestock and vandalism. They canceled the night trains because they kept getting attacked. Any case, so that's the thing. I wrote that as well. There's already a video about that on my channel. And long story short, now Ethiopia is in a whole bunch of debt to China for both of those projects and various other things. And so there's kind of an open question as to, is this sort of thing going to be a net gain for Ethiopia and countries like it, where they have this new infrastructure? Or is it going to be a net loss, where they now have a bunch of debt that they don't know what to do with? But I mean, debt to China is not exactly something that we're unfamiliar with. Am I right?
Yeah, what is it, 10 trillion now? But no,
makes 485 million look like a couple pennies.
Pretty much. But I don't know. It is like a trend across not just the continent of Africa, but also the world, of China coming in and building big infrastructure projects, right? And then everything kind of falling apart afterwards, right? Like I mentioned earlier, the Lagos Metro. Lagos is the largest city in Nigeria, and one of the largest cities on the continent, right? And China came in and paid for this big new metro system to be built, like fully grade separated, much larger stations, higher capacity than even
what Addis Ababa should have gotten.
Pretty much. And then they left, and Lagos, because it's not a super wealthy country, couldn't afford to buy trains for it, and now they're running diesel commuter rail stock over full metro infrastructure every hour, right? Like, it's sort of a similar problem to what we often...
I think they actually bought a couple of Talgo train sets that Wisconsin refused to pay for.
Yes, that's right. That's the Talgo train sets
and a bunch of HSTs from the UK. Like they're just kind of I really want to go and ride it, to be completely honest.
It would be a lot of fun.
They literally put in bench style seating in a Talgo.
Yes,
well, it's not bench style. It's like the seats face the aisle, but they're still like seats. They're not benches.
Oh, that's so interesting.
On the same kinds of Talgos they use on the Cascades and whatnot.
Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah.
If it's got wheels, it works.
They're running like these high-speed tilting trains, is what they are, on a metro system, because they can't afford the metro trains. And like, it's sort of the same problem we almost have. Like, the federal government will come in and build something, but then the locals have no money to operate or maintain it, and so everything sort of goes downhill, and you get a light rail that runs every 30 minutes, cough, cough, Denver, cough, cough. Except...
So are you saying, it's a small world after all, it's a small world after all?
The more things change, the more
all the light rails are falling apart, it's a small world with terrible transit.
But yeah, no, it's very interesting how this sort of dynamic is repeating itself in an entirely different thing, in an entirely different country, between different countries, actually. Like, where... Anyway, yeah.
Well, that's all the random trivia I had to share. Thank you so much for having me on the show, and I realize I've gone like twice your normal runtime at this point.
You would be surprised.
If you guys, editing.
If you guys would still like to hear any more about the Addis Ababa Light Rail, subscribe to Classy Whale, and at some point in hopefully the next month, I will have a sparkly narrated trip report and like 45 minutes of film footage.
And although Caleb is amazing at painting word pictures, honestly really good for somebody who usually has regular pictures, you can go check out the pictures of everything we just talked about on its channel.
Yeah, and you should, because it's fun. Thank you so much for being here, Caleb. We really enjoyed having you as a guest today.
Thank you for having me on.
Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and to follow and leave us a rating on iTunes and / or Spotify. If you like what we do here, please consider
And / or Spotify?
Yeah,
oh,
sure.
Yeah, that actually makes sense. It didn't make sense in my head first. Sorry, start that again. I was trying to be funny, and
The script
No, I
says
think it's
capital I-tunes, so really we can say whatever we want.
You know, it's not iTunes anymore, but it's Apple Music.
Is it? Oh, I guess I'll change that. It's good that you
I don't
interrupted
think that
us.
iTunes is a thing anymore.
Maybe
Maybe it is. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't use it. I just use Spotify.
Apple Music. Okay, I'm glad that you interrupted now because I had a chance to correct something I've been doing wrong for like 6 months probably.
Oh, no, they still have iTunes.
Oh, well,
but that's
should I
just
do
like the name of
Okay.
the app. It's not the name of the service, which is Apple Music.
I'm going to go with Apple Music. It sounds better.
Yeah.
Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and to follow us to leaving... Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and Kyle... Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and to follow and leave us a rating on Apple Music and / or Spotify. If you like what we do here, please consider becoming a member on Patreon. Patrons receive early access to all of our regular content, as well as exclusive episodes and occasional merch drops. Speaking of patrons, let me pull up Patreon real quick.
Green Line
Kyle,
tier.
Oh, are you doing Green Line tier first?
No, I was just using the local lines, but since they're the same as our
Oh.
tier names, I'm just being confusing.
Oh, that's good. I'm sure that the patrons will appreciate that.
Oh, I'm sure they always do. Wahaha. I will wait for you to pull up the page.
Okay, at Frontrunner Plus tier, we have $69.69 per month. We have Zach Adams. At Frontrunner half of a plus sign tier, we have Generic GT at $35 a month.
That's a
at our regular
sign.
Okay, well, it could be vertical.
Okay, fine.
At our regular Frontrunner tier, $10 a month, we have Curtis Herring, Devin Zander, McKay Ransom, Mike Christensen, Phobos2390, and Tony Stuntz.
At our Redline tier, which has no parallel in the place we're talking about today, unfortunately, $5 a month, we have Brian Smith, Christopher Whaley, DJ,
Hi, Will.
Watkins, Elijah Kensler, G4, Jacob Whitecotton, Jesse Mayo, Reluctant LA Resident, and Robert P. Walsh.
At our Blue Line tier, this time Addis Ababa Blue Line tier, we have Alex Dykelski, Alice Miaw, Ben Busath, Bradley Bondi, Ethan McDonald, Evelyn, Gavin Grottagut, Gonzo12, Jack McCoskey, Martine Hecker Martinez, Oliver, Sam Myers, Seth, Sky Lakowski, and Zach Forstott.
And at the Addis Ababa Green Line tier, $1 a month, which you could use to buy, 6 fares? We have Benjamin Wood, Joshua S. Horvath, and Kapil.
Thanks for listening. Goodbye.